You are listening to the JP Show.
where we discuss the issues you care about from a Jewish perspective.
I am Rabbi G.
And I am Rabbi Levi.
And we hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, hello everyone, and welcome back to another JP episode. It's a little bit of a hectic week this week. I'm actually, please God, towards the end of the week going overseas. Rabbi Levi is joining me next week for a long-awaited and deserved holiday and refreshed, recharged batteries.
I don't think it's a holiday. I wouldn't quite term it like that.
Hopefully a spiritual holiday. Then, like when we recharge
Actually,
our batteries.
before we even get started, just an interesting thought just came to my mind. I have no idea what you're going to say. So obviously, you're going yourself, meaning to say without mommy. I'm going without my wife and kids. So essentially, we're leaving our families for a week, a little more than a week. What do you think about that? Like, is that a responsible thing to do? I mean, look, for you, it's a matter of leaving your wife alone. You don't have little kids. For me, it's leaving my wife without a husband and without a father for the little help that I do, that I try to do.
I've always thought that your wife is a righteous woman, shall I say?
She's a righteous woman. That's correct. She'll be alone with 4 kids during
No,
school.
I think the concept is, let's put it in perspective. You're going away for, you're going to be in New York for like 6 days or something.
Yeah.
Days, whatever. It is hard. We do it because it's a spiritual recharge, and I think we come back better people when we do it. Better spouses and better teachers and better leaders.
Well, just for the sake of equality, because now everyone's very into equality, my wife actually has done this before to me as well.
Right,
There's
exactly.
actually a women's Chabad conference
Yes.
that happens that she went for. So, it goes both ways. But I think
It
that,
does go both ways, yeah.
I must say, by the way, there is a difference. This is going to be very not politically correct, but I think, it's just reality. There's the difference is when I leave, I don't have to leave lists and recipes and where everything is in the house and all that. But it's the other way around. There's a little bit more preparation that has to go into it. But anyway,
When your mother leaves, she actually has to every time reteach me how to use the washing machine.
No, yeah, it's true. I'm a little more modern than you. I actually wash dishes and do laundry and things like that. But nevertheless, anyway, spilling very big secrets here. But I think you're right. I think it's important to spiritually recharge. That's why I stopped you when you said we're going on a holiday. I don't think we're going on a holiday.
No, definitely not a holiday.
We're not going on like a boys' trip to the mountains.
Definitely not. Don't believe in that.
Yeah.
But
I'm going on a holiday. I'm going to live with my wife.
Yeah, not correct. Me too.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going. Why are we going?
So there's a very special event next week, and that is, I'm off laughing because I'm happy. Also, we're going to be there on my birthday. We've talked about this before. My actual birthday, my Hebrew birthday, my real birthday.
Yeah.
But actually, we're going this time of the year because it happens to coincide also with the 3rd of Tammuz, which is next Tuesday, a week from today, which is the yahrzeit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this year it's 30 years yahrzeit. It's an amazing, whatever. It's a both painful and amazing milestone.
Yeah.
But it is 30 years. And we know that the yahrzeit of a tzaddik, any tzaddik, well, yahrzeit in general is a very special day. Of a tzaddik, it's even more special. We are taught that his neshama sort of encapsulates everything that he was able to accomplish in this world and releases an amazing spiritual energy and blessing. And it's just a good day to be where he's buried and to daven there and to ask for blessings and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. It's also the amount of people that come now. It's like tens of thousands. It's unbelievable how many types of Jews come, how many people are there together. And I think especially this year, they're expecting a huge crowd.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge crowd there.
For sure.
For sure, yeah.
So let's start off with this. You are obviously quite well versed in the Rebbe's teachings. Yep. I'm going to say you know all of it because it's vast.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but
you're pretty involved in it. You're well versed. So let's start with the current situation we're in now. It's hard to, obviously you don't have authority to say what the Rebbe would say, but nevertheless, we have our own minds and we're obviously tasked to apply Torah teachings to whatever situation we find ourselves. What would the Rebbe say now in terms of what's going on in Israel, darkness that pervades the world? Well, and let's actually go more specific. Let's actually go back to Simchat Torah itself. When we heard the news right before Akafot, sort of was going through our minds: should we ban? Should we not ban? What should we do? What are we supposed to do? Like, where did your mind go at that point as a disciple,
yeah.
as a chassid?
So before I ask the question, I want to say, I think it's important to highlight one very important point, that it's brought out in the Zohar that, and many teachings, that particularly when a leader, when a tzaddik passes away, he does not forsake his flock, which means the energy, the blessing, the inspiration continues. It continues in a different way. And I mention that because the Rebbe's teachings are very eternal, and just the Rebbe's blessings. I mean, it is incredible to take note. I mean, I'm very fortunate because I saw the Rebbe many times. I was in the yeshiva near the Rebbe for a few years. I visited, even when I moved to Australia, I used to visit the Rebbe and heard his teachings, were by his Farbrengens, got his dollars. I was even in 1977 by my bar mitzvah. I was even in a private audience with him. I'm very fortunate. Having said that, however, it is interesting to note that when he passed away 30 years ago, there were many skeptics that said that Chabad movement is basically over, and it was good while it was around, but that's it. It's there's no one really to replace him, and there isn't, and they were completely wrong, because not only has it continued, it's actually exploded. The shlichus, the whole sending embassies around the world, and the outreach and the growth and the learning is absolutely exploded. That's one area where you see it in incredible continuation. And the other, which never ceases to amaze me, is that there are so many young people, Bacharim, you were actually born before the Rebbe passed away, but many even Bacharim who were born afterwards, never saw the Rebbe. Yes, we have videos, we have teachings, but they have such a connection, and they're so well versed in his teachings and live by his teachings and connected to him and so on, that it is just phenomenal. So you see that it's something spiritual, not just a strategy, it's a spiritual thing going on there.
Right.
Now, part of that also is that the Rebbe packed so much into, how many years? Was 1950, 1994, right?
1992. So yeah, well, yes, since I ever stopped talking. Yeah, like 40 years.
Yeah, over 40 years of leadership. He packed so much, and we have so many teachings from him, and so many thoughts, and so many letters, and so many publications. It's just unbelievable. That also has given us, besides the spiritual power that we're experiencing, it's actually given us an amazing gift that I don't think there's any topic that comes up where you can't go back and find a view, a perspective, a Torah perspective that the Rebbe would teach.
Yeah.
And I think that was a bit of a long introduction to your question. When I got tapped on the shoulder of Simchat Torah, I'll be honest now, it's before Gimel Tammuz, and when I got tapped on the shoulder, and it was before we had to start dancing, and I got tapped on the shoulder to be told that there was a war broken out in Israel, and it's terrible, and all the terrible things that are going on. It's a huge danger. And I'm the rabbi of the shul, and we're about to start the Hakafat of Simchat Torah. And I'm thinking to myself, what do I do now? What's the right thing to do? What's the correct thing to do? My first thought is, what would the Rebbe teach us to do?
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't go look it up at that point. I had to make it up, because I did go back that night, because the next day is the same question. I researched after Yom Kippur War, and Yom Kippur was also over Sukkot and Simchat Torah, and it was very not good then. I remember there was a lot of it was like not a good war, as we know. And I looked it up, but at that moment I thought to myself,
how old are you, by the way, by the Yom Kippur War?
It was 73, correct?
Yeah.
No, I was a little child. I was bar mitzvah in 77, so.
Oh, so you probably hardly remember it. Okay.
Yeah, but I remember it happening. It made a very big impact, even as a child. Very big impact. I remember it being announced in the Ilah. I remember the rabbi of the shul getting up and says that apparently there's been an attack, and we said extra Tilim. I remember it was quite. And I remember that Simchat Torah as well. It was quite phenomenal. I really thought, and I acted accordingly. And I know I got up and I announced what happened. As you remember, you were there, and I said, look, we have to not let them win. We first stopped and we said to Tehillim. It was quite a somber night, but yet Hakafot continued, because I remember that the Rebbe's view was, number one, obviously we need to be very concerned. when the Rebbe heard about the Yom Kippur War, that in Ne'ilah, it is well known that the Rebbe cried very, very much, and he cried bitter tears. At the same time, the Rebbe said, power of prayer, power of bitachon, emunah, trust and faith in Hashem, being positive, and also not letting there be a spiritual decline. And I knew that because I'd heard from many people. I heard that Simchat Torah during Yom Kippur War was amazingly, the hakafot, the dancing was incredibly strong. And, there are lots of things. I tried to reenact that, and we said Tillim, and we prayed, and we stopped, and we did a thing with the children. And then we did proceed with hakafot, and people appreciated it because the idea was we're not going to let them, we are going to continue, Am Yisrael Chai, and we're going to dance. Obviously, the dancing was different. It was a different kind of dancing, but it was a very strong dancing. And that night I went home and I wasn't, I thought to myself, did I do the right thing? And I looked it up, all the talks around the Yom Kippur War, and I confirmed them. The Rebbe asked the question himself, how can we dance when there's when there's a war going on, all kind of stuff. And he spoke amazing things about the soldiers, about how righteous they are and risking their lives and so on and so forth. But he said that we have to support them by doing the right thing and by bringing in joy and simcha in the appropriate and correct way. And that will bring tremendous blessings. So, yeah, so that's one small example of thinking back, like, what the Rebbe's teachings been out. And we know his love for Israel, but in general, is also, we know his views on Israel, but not giving back land. He was very strong about that. It's a gift to the Jewish people. God miraculously restored it into our hands. Israel's always belonged to us and always is ours, but we had lost control for many, many centuries, and he gave it back into Jewish hands in 1948, and that was miraculous and a gift. And therefore we need to hang on to it, and all those things. So all the talks and the thoughts of the Rebbe on Israel came back.
Yeah, no, for sure. What do you think he would say about, I think people are very concerned, besides what's going on in Israel, but also the rise of anti-Semitism. Like, did you ever think back what he would say about that? Did he ever speak about that?
He did. I think his view was, look, obviously when things happen, we take precautions. So what I'm about to say is not to undermine any, like, we don't live in La La Land. I mean, we do have to beef up security, and we have to be careful, we have to be responsible. And each place that means something else, and each place that means something different. And obviously we have to rally and make sure politicians are doing something and supporting us and so on. But at the same time, the Rebbe was very, very clear that Jewish strength and Jewish pride and being more Jewish in general, on a practical level, brings greater respect from the nations of the world.
Yeah.
Is there always anti-Semitism? Of course, but the expression of anti-Semitism now, we need to make sure that we actually respond with tremendous strength. Someone told me a beautiful thing the other day, and someone told me about there's different fundraisers going on for different institutions and so on, and of course people are supporting Israel at the same time, which is very, very important. But someone told me, not a person who's involved with Chabad or anything, just someone told me that he feels it's very actually a much more important time now to support institutions. And it wasn't about BINA, by the way. It wasn't the BINA fundraising discussion. It was just about general. And he said, with anti-Semitism on the rise and all that, we need to make sure we have strong institutions. And I would add to that, we need to make sure we have strong institutions and we have strong people, strong Jews. And I think that would be the Rebbe's view for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Rebbe in general was also very into bringing, in many different aspects, bringing Judaism into the streets, if safe, obviously, like Boimer parades and Hanukkah parades and mitzvah tank parades and all these type of things, being very, very bold.
Sure.
So you mentioned before, so I'm going to pick up on something that perhaps can go a little unnoticed, but I think it's very fundamental. You mentioned before how during the Yom Kippur War, when the news broke in 770, and I actually heard from someone that was actually there when that happened, and there was bitter tears and obviously distress of what's going on, and at the same time encouraging people to be joyous and positive. So two opposites at once. I feel like this is like something which comes up a lot by the Rebbe in general in his perspective in life, the ability to be able to do two opposite things from two different directions at once. He touched on
often, he often spoke about that. First of all, it's based on a Zohar that person can have crying and joy inside our heart at the same time in different sides, and we can sort of hold opposites because we have an infinite soul. The infinite soul has the capacity to actually do that. Because sometimes if you don't cry as well, you're insensitive. So that's number one. Number two, also, it's also different times at different areas of focus. So just bearing in mind, the crying took place at Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
That is the time to cry.
Yeah.
That's I mean, obviously with joy, with inner joy, and with trust and focus, but that is the time when we cry out to God. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is when we when we really cry out. And I think this coming Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, we're gonna really cry out for a better year. And that's appropriate. But in general, there's this concept where yes, you can. I mean, it's interesting. I remember I was a number of Simchat Torahs by the Rebbe, and before Hakafot for the dancing on Simchat Torah, that I would actually lead a Farbrengen where we would talk about different topics. And it actually was specifically in that Farbrengen that he would often cry. He'd cry about being in exile, and the Beis Hamikdash hasn't been destroyed. He would cry about the beauty of a soul and the Jewish strength. Various emotional topics would come up in that Farbrengen specifically. And then he would go to Hakafot. The joy would be just amazing. Like, yes, so that contradiction is there because sometimes both emotions are important, and we have an infinite soul which can carry two emotions at the same time.
Can you maybe share a different time in your life, obviously something you can share, where you didn't have direct correspondence with the Rebbe about it, but something that you asked yourself, like, what would the Rebbe tell me to do, and you did it because of that inspiration?
Many times. But I think it continues to give me strength. Like I have often his words ringing in my ears when we have challenges, even challenges in BINA, whether it's fundraising challenges or just journey in the early days about Sydney, and it was far and it was difficult and just so many different ideas. I mean, not everything is clear cut, right? There are nuanced things, and that's why they've always said we should have a mentor and every person should have a mentor. But there are certain clear cut things like for example, giving up. What it wasn't exactly in his dictionary.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes a lot of things might be more comfortable, but there's no such thing as giving up. There's a thoughts that's been in my mind. We spoke about this last year. I am having a special birthday coming up. I'm not very old. I'm still quite young, but 60, people start thinking about different things. We're going to keep going even stronger. With the help of God. And that's he was not a big fan of retirement. He was people need to keep doing and serving God and spreading light and increase, all those things, right? And every time there's a thought, maybe we should cut down, maybe we should take it more easy, you hear the Rebbe in your ear. So what are you doing extra? All that kind of stuff. So
like anyone who came to the Rebbe and said, like, I'm doing something, it was never like, good job, now you can relax. It's always like, okay, now do double.
Next year, report back double kind of thing. Yeah, always. Yeah.
In any area, like in tzedakah, learning, in anything. Like
anything,
yeah. Wow.
I remember a cute little thing that the Rebbe, someone came to the Rebbe, like you say, in every area, right? Someone came to the Rebbe once in Dallas. I saw the video and he was printing commentaries from his grandfather or something on the Chumash, right? It hadn't been published before. And he printed the first one, Bereshis, and he said to the Rebbe it was a very big job. It has to be deciphered and had to be interpreted, whatever, whole big thing, right? And then they gave him an extra $1 for the Sefer. And then out of the blue, the Rebbe counts out $4 more and says, I'm giving you an advance for the next 4, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Devarim, right? And the guy got such a shock. He said, no, I just finished this one. You could see he was very impressed with himself. He managed to put out one volume.
That's right.
He was planning to take a bit of a break. And I said, okay, next one. Come on, let's go more. So yeah, every area of life was like that.
So just sort of a general idea and a general perspective on how you look at this, right? So when you talk about a tzaddik, a righteous person, a rebbe, someone on that level, we obviously don't even really strive to become like that. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's in a different league of holiness, and different league of righteousness. Yet we are inspired by him, right? So I mean, for example, like you mentioned before, like the Rebbe wasn't a fan of retirement. The Rebbe himself, this is something I think which is probably one of the most mind-blowing facts, did not take a day off in 40 years.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, I mean, even after he had a heart attack in 1977, I mean, within 2 days, he was back at it, working. I mean, is that, like, when you look at that, for example, is that something that inspires you, or is that something that you just say, well, he's a Rebbe, he's a tzaddik, that's not for me to learn from?
So it's a very interesting question in general. So when you see the Rebbe, on certain levels, but like every tzaddik, every leader, he's a leader of people, right? And he inspired us. So the Rebbe never said never to take a day off. I mean, he did say, he did in fact even tell people sometimes to take off. But when you see a Rebbe who actually, literally, as you say, never took a day off, including Shabbos, by the way, I mean, like he's for praying, he's talked, right? Never ever took a day off, which is superhuman. It's honestly superhuman. So do we aspire to do exactly that? I think the answer is no. But does the perspective make an impact, and should it make an impact? Yes. That, to use his words, we didn't come to this world to have a party. Like we came to work, and that's what we do. We've got to work, and yes, we've got to take care of ourselves when necessary, but that's like a secondary thing. And if we need to recharge our batteries, whether it's spiritually or sometimes even physically, then that's what we've got to do. But you gotta just learn from that perspective. Like the focus has to be doing and growing.
For sure. Let's end off. What are your, maybe you haven't had time to think about this yet, but what are your reflections as you come to 30 years? Come to 30 years since his passing, since he's no longer physically in this world. What are your thoughts? Because it's a big year. It's a long time. 30 years is a long time.
Look, the Rebbe himself, in terms of the previous Rebbe, spoke about the number 30, and said that 30 brings in in a positive way, brings in a new era of blessing and inspiration. It's, I think Hasidim generally have mixed feelings. It's 30 years, and Mashiach still hasn't come. We know Mashiach was one of the great wishes of the Rebbe. He lived with the coming of Mashiach and the belief that we should believe Mashiach is coming. It's an absence. On the other hand, we also know what he would say, like that on the contrary, the 30 years and things that he said about his predecessor, which is the previous Rebbe, that 30 years means he's coming closer to us, not more absent. The flow of blessing, the teachings we can understand on a deeper level, we can learn them. There's still so much to be connected. I think for me it means an era where we have to connect more, not less. Bring it more into our consciousness, not drive it into memory. In other words, it should be something we live with.
Yeah.
And that we can still live with his inspiration, with his teachings, with his instructions, with his guidance, which of course are all based on Torah teachings and the fundamentals of Torah and belief and mitzvot and so on and so forth. And Torah learning.
Yeah, which is what BINA is all about. I mean, inspiration for BINA, I believe.
Absolutely, 100%.
Importance of learning, importance of learning, and the importance of every little learning also. It doesn't have to be necessarily
correct.
Grand. 5 minutes of learning also has infinite worth.
Number one. Number two, also, by the way, sharing learning. If someone comes and as a share and learns, that you teach someone else, share it with someone. Yeah. Share with a family member, share with a friend. Everyone can be a teacher. Everyone has to keep learning, but everyone else can be a teacher.
Absolutely. All right, everyone.
All right. Maybe if we had a chance, we'll report back to you while we're in New York.
We'll try to do that.
We find the right technology. Maybe we'll do another session there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we'll see you when we're back.
All the best, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone.